Welcome to the bold analysis. With the court interpretation that the Senate verdict on the Deputy President's ouster could pave the way for the President to appoint his deputy, William Ruto is reported to have activated his political think tanks to unravel who would be the suitable candidate to succeed the Deputy President, Rigathi Gachagua. The President, he went silent, and going silent was a sign of portraying not being bothered by the impeachments, but secretly is believed to be meeting a section of Mount Kenya leaders who constitute part of his think tank with the prospects of who to become the next Deputy President. On two occasions that William Ruto has come out on Sunday, he attended a church service in AC Milimani, a church service that was boycotted by some of the congregants when they realized that the president was attending. In the photos from that church service, empty chairs could be seen in that service. But of course, it's understood that it's normally have morning and afternoon, so he went for that morning, and the attendance in the morning session is not normally looking good. Today in State House, the First Lady spearheaded an event that political onlookers feel the President was supposed to be chief guest, and William Ruto has avoided coming out in public, but has resorted to working indoors from the State House. Since any other public appearance, there would be a push, or rather he will be pressed to explain or to put up his position on the Deputy President's impeachment. There have been calls and the President has kept quiet. The truth of the matter here is this is a national discourse, and this is an exercise that has been commissioned from State House. William Ruto, there is no way that William Ruto cannot be directly or indirectly involved in the plan to change his deputy. If anything, a deputy is only answerable to the President. This plan by William Ruto to start shopping for the new Deputy President is believed to be a strategy to intensify Rigathi ouster, as the position suitors are the ones that are supposed to lead lobbying senators in the parliamentary caucus to push for Rigathi exit. If there is something that William Ruto has been doing, and if you follow 2022 elections, there were so many people that were promised, and this position comes with lucrative packages. So even if you are someone in this country and you've been told that you can become the next Deputy President, you will stop at nothing to ensure that Rigathi Gachagua is shown the door. Keen on deflating the public sympathy on Rigathi, State House handlers are saying the President is in a rush to shop for the deputy to be unveiled immediately. And that is why you realize Rigathi has this intelligence, and that is why he has presented a court. He has launched a case in Eldoret Law Court, in Eldoret High Court, to push for President to be stopped from appointing Rigathi's successor if Senate upholds the National Assembly impeachment. There is a question of IBC lacking quorum, and it is the body that is supposed to test the suitability of the nominee. So is it a question, will the court also be demanded to give an interpretation around that? But if you want to know that things are not really sitting pretty good by Kikuyu oligarchs on this matter of Rigathi Gachagua's impeachment, it is at this point that I would want you to listen to Tony Gashoka. Tony Gashoka is a journalist, and Tony Gashoka is an opinion leader, but he cuts an edge of someone who interacts and speaks with the oligarchs, the who's and who's ranging from the political circles to the business moguls in the region, and even better still, media entrepreneurs from Mount Kenya.
Tuwezi kumpatia kina Murala, anawachukua. Kwa nini achukui Kalonzo? Anachukua Murala, anachukua Karono. Unajua, hata watu wengine, unajua hata nyinyi muangalie game. How come he's taking the lightweights? Kwa nini asiarrest Karua ama Kalonzo? Sasa mimi nakwambia hivi, mimi nataka ni vile sikulala vizuri. I'm very concerned because I can help this country. I'm not in any political position, but I have the networks of bringing the conversation. And nothing, it's very difficult because you mean well, and I mean the country means well. But in war, not everybody will survive it. My question is, if 60-70% of youth are elected to governors and MPs and whatever, won't Kenya be better in the next 10-20 years so that as people resolve leadership issues, people have opportunity? So the question I'm having is that if we let Ruto-Raila alliance, I saw yesterday something that scared me. No Kalenjin MP was speaking. All the people that were prosecuting Gachagua was ODM. And the reason I'm raising this issue is this is a sign of a political alliance for 2027. This is not a time for luxury. This is not a time for political theory. My question is, if we don't do what he did with Gachagua yesterday, scared me. A deputy president who is a billionaire by his own admission was removed like a fly on a wall. Who are you? Who am I? If we let this man go on, will their theories be tested or will we be forever destroyed? This is a historical fact. Nelson Mandela was really like Jomo Kenyatta was a passenger. Walter Sisulu and the rest were the drivers of the ANC. And Mandela, because of his jailing, got the sympathy and became the leader of the ANC. Jomo Kenyatta was anti-Mau Mau. He was never the leader. The leaders of the Mau Mau, Dedan Kimathi and the rest, were never ever accolades. I'm only asking the question, and I have not made the decision. I'm asking the question where I'm seeing this country going. The infightings I'm seeing among young people, the lack of experience which is there, and Ruto, and the way Ruto is marching with Baba. You know, I saw Baba opening the door for Ruto in Germany. And in the US, Raila Odinga, the mighty Raila Odinga, is now a flower girl of William Ruto. Parliament is a rubber stamp of William Ruto. And I'm asking Kenyans, as Tony Gashoka, I'm in Diani right now. I've never been in Nairobi for 7 years. I don't have to come. But I want to come and help. And if I come and help, I've got some friends I can call. And I can get them active. And you don't have to trust Kalonzo, but trust me. I'm telling you, I need to talk to some people because of the things that I'm seeing and where Ruto is going. Go ahead. I must make some phone calls. We can't allow this thing of Gachagua. You know, I don't even know him. But I am going to, even me, I'll go to Nyeri. I'll go there with Kalonzo, myself, if necessary. Because we have to take this anger. We have to take this anger.
Where does IEBC come into all this? Is it even a viable option? Is it a waste?
That's actually a good point, and that's part of the conversation with the Kalonzos and the rest. What happened with IBC is the following: Kalonzo Musyoka objected to the nominee that had been done by Azimio on behalf since Ruto. So when Ruto appointed the selective committee or the selection committee, a nominee was brought in to represent the opposition. And that nominee, given what Raila is doing with the government, the opposition rejected that nominee. So that matter went to court. So what is happening is that the system is delaying the court case to decide who is going to be nominated by the opposition, who's the opposition, to appoint the person in the select committee that will now appoint the commissioners. So part of the problem that we are having now is because instead of marching and helping Kalonzo achieve the person we need, let's, for example, decide that today we wanted Oki Mtata to be the person in the select committee, then it's us to tell Kalonzo that the person we trust to determine who can be a credible electoral commissioner is Okio Mtata. But we are not having a conversation with Kalonzo. We are fighting everybody. And so Ruto is using the space to grow. I don't want to over-dominate. I wanted Nyoro to continue passing the mic, but I wanted to let you know about the IBC. And one of the problems we are having is that we need an effective opposition to get some of these things done. Right now, the so-called Gen Zs are all over the place. There's a young man called Kasmaiko, is it? I saw him now with Raila Odinga. I'm seeing the other one, I don't know where. My question is, why are you talking as though there is an absolute, bunch of angels in Gen Zs and every other Kenyan? So my question is, can we come together, the ones of common purpose? Or to your view, we just let Ruto do what he wants? I need to just clarify a legal problem. That there is a legal provision on how a select panel for appointing the IBC is, how you come to it. And there is a...
The DP removal was a long-range scheme that was hatched some time back. So I want us to look at that because there is there are some scenes that have preceded this Rigathi succession, or rather this forced succession, this premature succession that William Ruto plotted. So I want us to look at the list of those who are suitors for that position and about why Ndindi Nyoro walked out of a scheme, walked out of that contest, because that is what has been confirmed, that Ndindi Nyoro walked out of the contest to be the deputy president. But before we look at that, let's look at these four scenes that point into the direction of the key pointers into who is going to be the next kingpin, who is going to be the next deputy president. Number one, before MP started Kindiki, before MP started regarding impeachment, it was first Kindiki endorsement scheme.
The prevailing state of affairs and the urgency of the mission ahead. There is need to have a link that will create a nexus between us and the national executives on matters development. Accordingly, we as elected leaders from this region, on our own behalf and that of our people, unanimously resolve that our link to the national government to be the Cabinet Secretary for Interior and National Administration, Professor Kithure Kindiki, whose responsibilities in the executive includes the coordination of national government functions.
Leo tumepata ghadhabu sababu tumeona wabunge ambao ni wa upande wetu wa mlima na wengine kutoka ubali wa mpaka Lamu na kwingine na maseneta wameungana hapa Nyahururu wakiwa na msemo mmoja kwamba wamekuja kutafuta spokesman wao, na wakasema huyo spokesman anaitwa Kindiki. Na sisi hatuna shida na spokesman, lakini tuko na shida na kwamba ma-MP wanaweza kupatana 48 kuja hapa kusema maneno hayana maana, na hawa wananchi hawa wengine hizi bodaboda wafanya biashara kama hawa kuwapata, hata kupata huyo hapa Wachira Karani inawachukua karibu miezi 5 mtu kumuona MP. Lakini leo wanaweza kuungana hapa kuja kusema maneno yasiyo na maana. Sisi ndio tumewachagua, nyinyi ni waakilishi wetu. Kabla ya kunena maneno mengine mje mtuulize. Hata katiba inasema tuwe na public participation kama kuna decisions za muhimu zinafanyika. Kwa hivyo ni kumaanisha kama hamjatuuliza, hiyo decision yenu haina umuhimu wowote. Nataka kuambia kama wazee, tutawaombea, na sisi tunasema kitu moja, tukiwaombea tunawaachia Mungu. Mungu anaweza kukubariki akitaka, na pia anaweza kuachia jua iseme itafanya vile itafanya na wewe. Manake hiyo kazi unajifanyia ni yako binafsi. Na kama mmetumwa, mwenye kuwatuma ajitokeze. Si tunajaribu kuamini sio William Samoei Arap Ruto, lakini kama ni yeye, kuna wakati tunamwambia hata wewe koma. Wacha kuchokora Mount Kenya region. Utatuhitaji. Sasa hii tufanyieni kazi. So kama wazee tunawaomba mfanye ile kazi mlitumwa. Na wewe Kionjori, kama ungependa kuwa deputy president, kuna njia za kuwa deputy president, na sio lazima uzime taa ya mwingine ndio yako iwake. Pia unaweza goja wakati wako. Kama unafikiria Rigathi alivuka laini mbele yako, hamna la kufanya, sasa ni ugoje. Badala ya muongee juu ya boundaries review, muongee juu ya kuleta IEBC. Tunajua hamtaki tuwe na uchaguzi, ndio mnaanza kuzunguka kushikana kusema east west. Mount Kenya ni moja. Kama Mwenyezi Mungu alifanya makosa akaifanya ikiwa moja, basi nyinyi ndio mnajua kuliko Mwenyezi Mungu. Tunaona vile Mwenyezi Mungu atawabariki kwa hiyo maneno ya kugawanya sisi wananchi. Ni kwamba leo hakukuwa na Nyahururu declaration. Ile ilikuwa hapa ni declaration ya Kenjori na Keshongwa na wala walikuwa na hawa. Waache kuiita Nyahururu. Muache kuharibu jina ya mji wetu. Mji wetu ni mji ambao ni cosmopolitan. Tuko na watu wengi wanaishi hapa kutoka jamii karibu zote. Karibu jamii 30 communities, different ethnic groups. Kwa hivyo kuja hapa kusema kuna Nyahururu declaration na ni ya kupiganisha watu, wewe Kionjori umepotea njia. Wewe Kionjori ujiangalie sana. Hakuna kitu inaitwa Nyahururu declaration. Na hakuna wananchi wamesema hapa. Nyinyi mmesema kuna Nyahururu declaration? Hakuna Nyahururu declaration.
There was a meeting in Nyahururu declaration that endorsed Kindiki as the link between the executive and the people. And there was another meeting in Embu that endorsed Kindiki. And then there was another MCS caucus that met in Murang'a to endorse Kithure Kindiki. And remember, the reason why this is being picked is William Ruto always opted. There are scenes of what happened when Rigathi Gachagua was to be picked as the running mate, and things tables turned in current residence when MPs were to vote and pick Kithure Kindiki. I just want to play for you a snippet of those declarations about Kindiki endorsement. Now, this endorsement was supposed to provide a directional view to the voters, or rather to the UDA supporters, about who William Ruto was picking as the next running mate. So Kithure Kindiki, or rather this Kithure Kindiki endorsement scheme that we saw, is also one factor on table that we can consider it as one of the indicators on next deputy president. The second one is Nyoro's nationwide rallies with UDA MPs across the country. And when you are listening to proceedings in parliament against the DP, you remember that claim of Rigathi called some MPs Malaya. And okay, I don't know. Okay, I don't want to use that word, but of course that's what they said. So apparently, Rigathi Gachagua was asking why Ndindi Nyoro was being facilitated. He was being airlifted. He was being lifted by. Was flying with the state choppers, state-sponsored choppers across the country, and of course, in what Rigathi saw as a scheme that William Ruto was preparing a ground for Ndindi Nyoro to be the deputy. But somewhere in the middle of all that, he actually went quiet. Despite of, and I remember that time, there was John Nyutu, Murang'a Senator, and Edward Miriu, the Gatanga Member of Parliament, and I think there were some three members of Parliament from and Miriu Maua. They emerged and said that it was time for the deputy president slot to go to Murang'a. And even though Ndindi Nyoro kept quiet and never commented about that in public, probably in private he would comment it, never commented about that in public, he went quiet. Then when the impeachment proceedings also came, he did not sign the motion. The first signature collection from MPs, he did not sign. And even during the voting exercise, he skipped. Never voted nor yes, but was absent from Parliament. With reports indicating that, of course, he was amongst the team during the day that Rigathi was in Parliament. Those who are eyeing to be deputy presidents were holed up in State House for a meeting with the president on how they would take over from him. So that is also another pointer that the public may pay attention to. The third issue is Raila Ruto broad-based mongrel. Broad-based government is at play. And when you follow the proceedings in Parliament yesterday, you will if you're keen enough, you will realize that when Wetangula was giving time for speakers to debate on Rigathi motion, ODM legislators got more airtime to debate on that motion more than even the Kikuyu legislators. So if you followed that proceeding for all those 7 hours, and you critically look at the choice of speakers, the MPs that who spoke from Mount Kenya are very few. That Nyandarua, Women Rep Faith Gitau, Kimani Chungwa, who is the majority leader. I don't know who next. Countable. You can throw in if you can see it. But there were few. Most of speakers came from, and of course, those who are opposing. The ones that came from Mount Kenya, few who are opposing, that is Wamushomba and Kirinyaga Women Rep, and amongst other MPs. Now, when you look at that, you'll realize that William Ruto used the broad-based, the broad-based arrangement to send Rigathi home. I've been saying, I said it sometime here, and some people said I was hitting Raila, but I said one of the secret objectives where William Ruto went for Raila Odinga, much as many might see that AUC, but and Raila Ruto went for even giving them up to the cabinet slots, was to ensure that he gets numbers in parliament. And the tragedy that is befalling this country is that the numbers in parliament are being abused, and parliament is now the house to settle political scores. So the framers of 2010 constitution that wanted to immunize the office of the vice president from arbitrary dismissals must now regret that clause, because that clause is now, of course, the immunization of the deputy president slot is now being eroded by just a slippery parliament. But also keenly, there is the other side of it. We embedded the presidency to have the president and the vice president, the deputy in the same, and we really created a layer for tribalism. So even when I'm seeing people saying so and so is tribal, the ticket from 2013 has been on tribal basis. 2013, Uhuru Ruto was on tribal basis. 2017 the same, and even 2022 that was employed. So we're going to look how 2027 look for. But there is also another point, broad-based. We've seen cabinet, gotten some cabinet. If there are going to be changes, remember if changes are, then there are so many other aspects in it. Number 3 or number 4, the other pointer that we must put into place is Ruto's hint on picking a woman as a running mate. That was last year. And Rigathi Gachagua rushed to Kirinyaga to say that was not it. But remember, even 13 just 2 weeks ago, while speaking in Machakos, some women leaders endorsed Waiguru for the seat. Now, Mount Kenya leaders, there are a couple of names that have been thrown, that have been suggested to be in the shortlist for those who are going to be picked. Kithure Kindiki, a man who was touted as the person to pick probably even in 2027. Nyoro, Kiharu member of parliament. Kithure Kindiki is currently the interior CS, and I have a bit of some reservations from Kindiki because when and lawyers will tell you that when Kindiki was picked to go to interior, he was going in that ministry when that ministry was disobeying court orders, the contempt of court orders, especially around the time of Matiang'i. So the lawyers say that because one of them has been picked, the government will now be obeying court orders. But it is through the era of Kindiki that we've seen terror meted on the people in the form of disappearances and killings for the two protests that have been experienced in this country. 2023, Raila Ruto, and 2024, Gen Z Ruto protest. So his suitability in that post, to my end, is not something I really fancy. Waiguru, governor, recently, remember, she handed over the chairperson, the chairmanship, chairperson seat of Council of Governors. Mutahi Kagwe is also coming from Nyeri. Kindiki is coming from Tharaka Nithi. Nyoro is coming from Murang'a. Musalia Mudavadi, if that position is going out, and then another wild card of Raila Odinga and Gladys Wanga and Irungu Kang'ata. Now, confirmed exclusively, Ndindi Nyoro has reportedly walked out of the contest and has opted to abstain from that race, considering the mood in Mount Kenya. So amongst the front runners for this was actually Ndindi Nyoro and Kithure Kindiki. But from the information coming out is Ndindi Nyoro has decided to abstain from it. That will be the best decision for him at this point, because of course the person who's going to take up from Rigathi is going to, of course, rubber stamp, or is going to allow, it is seen as just celebrating the mob justice that happened in Parliament. But to my end, I'm seeing these are some of the reasons why Ndindi Nyoro decided to bolt out. Number one, Murang'a County MPs opposed Rigathi impeachment, except Betty Maina, the women rep. So, of course, nominated member Sabina Chege voted yes, but of course is not elected, is nominated by Jubilee. But if you look at Mary Maua Maragwa, if you look at Peter Kihungi, Kangema, is it Kigumo? Is it Kigumo, if I'm not wrong? If you look at Ndara, Chege, if you look at Senator John Nyutu, Edward Miriu, the Gatanga P, nearly all the members of parliament from Murang'a decided to stand with the deputy president, Rigathi Gachagua. Now, I don't know, Kiharu, but a research was also, public participation was done in Kiharu, and in Kiharu constituency, people said no to Rigathi impeachment. So, probably that is also one of the factors. Number two, it is not clear whether Ruto is seeking a caretaker DP, or things might turn in 2027. I just want to leave it at that, because in the next phase, the other bit of this analysis, I'm going to explain more on that. Then the third aspect is Mount Kenya MPs are not, there is no guarantee that Mount Kenya MPs are going to coalesce around the person who is going to be picked as a deputy president. Let me tell you, one of the challenges that the Rigathi Gachagua faced here is, the moment Rigathi Gachagua elevated himself by the virtue of being a deputy president to be the kingpin of Mount Kenya, that's where things started going wrong. Because what then I think DP didn't realize is, Kimani Ichung'wah, I've always wanted, by that position of majority leader, he was also vying for the position to be the kingpin. Or not even the kingpin to be the person. He didn't want and Ruto also didn't want to have one person to be the eye for the focal point in Mount Kenya. He didn't want that. So all this scheme that has been created was to ensure, number one, that, remember, Rigathi did not become the kingpin, but the virtue of him being the deputy president and the senior most from Mount Kenya. Now that was done, and that was done for odds to work against him. And so even if you are going to be picked as DP, you might consider that if these people are not supporting me, then maybe I don't take up. The other issue is, the government failures have been so open. Remember, we analyzed and we said that it's only the president who has been defending his government. A number of MPs and other leaders that are supposed to defend a bit lukewarm, and so you might decide not to be in the limelight. Now, I want to say this. While I've seen media reports and analysts trying to portray Rigathi succession, this premature Rigathi succession as an easiest thing for the president, but looking at the variables involved, the decision is more complex. That decision is very complex, and I'm very sure even where President Ruto is seated, he knows it. It is not as easy as what he might think. And if you want to know that, can you listen to the voice of church? The clergy, Kikuyu clergy, are saying the DP should not be impeached and the president should reach out to MPs to withdraw that impeachment. It's very difficult. The other challenge with that decision is Ruto fears occasioning a by-election in Mount Kenya. And let me go back to that list. Ndindi Nyoro bolting out is a good news for him, because if you would pick Ndindi Nyoro, it means there will be a by-election in Murang'a. And you don't know what can happen. You don't know what can actually happen. If the reception of the people, how would it be? The same too, if you go and pick Governor Waiguru, probably there will be a by-election. They have to pick another governor. Even if you pick Irungu Kang'ata. So that is why Irungu Kang'ata, Ndindi Nyoro, Waiguru will easily be knocked out of it. Now, that leaves it open for Kindiki and probably Mutahi Kagwe. But also looking at Mutahi Kagwe's proximity with the former president, that is something that will not also be, that is something that will still be at odds. But of course, Mutahi Kagwe comes from Nyeri, just like Rigathi Gachagua. So you could see the variables in it. But the other third point, and this is the pregnant point in this, and let me put it in question form. In 2024, is Ruto picking a running mate, or is Ruto picking a deputy president, or also a deputy president to double as a running mate in 2027? I want to pick it this way, and this is one of the variables in it. When you are picked as a running mate, the person Ruto is going to pick as a running mate is a caretaker. As a deputy president, is a caretaker deputy president. And why am I saying? In 2027, if Rigathi Gachagua, if the axis of Rigathi Gachagua will have a candidate, and that candidate convinces Mount Kenya comfortably, and Ruto realizes that he cannot get 40% of votes from the mountain, he will have to look elsewhere and go western. That is how that politics will be done. And whoever will be picked can be told that, look here, we have to go outside, because even if we pick you, we can still lose. Remember, this is what happened in Azimio. Ruto, Kalonzo, Raila picked Martha Karua, and he had to convince Kalonzo that even if we go with you, we may not still make it. So let's go to the mountain, because where there is the vote, and he picked Martha Karua. The other issue of making it very complex is Ruto's succession. Ruto must also know very well that whoever you pick is a candidate for your succession by default. If you pick him as a running mate, if you pick him as a deputy president, he will demand to be a running mate. And that is one thing on table. Because if you dump him, where will he go? Where will he actually go? So that person will be a candidate for succession. You must also ensure that the person who is picked is someone who will help you manage your succession. And lastly, whoever is going to be picked, is he able to counter Rigathi to appease the mountain? Because if Rigathi is not the running mate, Rigathi will take the mountain. Is he going to be appealing? Remember, the ground have said impeachment was wrong. So what is the language of your new pick when you go to Mount Kenya? That's my take, guys. Thank you very much. Let's meet in the next. What do you think of Nyoro's take to bolt out of Rigathi succession?